Okay, so in a moment, we're going to start building our first pods here. And before we can do that, there are a bunch of really fundamental kube control commands that we need to know. Kube control get is the most basic there is. It returns a list of whatever object it is that you're asking for. If I type kube control get pod, I'm getting back this no resources found. That doesn't mean that there's no pods running inside of my cluster at all. Notice that what it's saying is no resources found in default namespace. We're going to talk more about namespaces later, but suffice it to say, in our current namespace, no other pods exist. So we need to change that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a manifest here, pod manifest. .yaml, and we're going to paste in that manifest that we were looking at earlier. All right, nothing new here. Save and quit. So what we're now going to do is we're going to create that pod now that we've got that manifest created. Now, there are two different commands you could do here, kube control create or kube control apply. Kube control apply is the one that you see more often. But basically the way that it works is that I would like to apply what is at this file location, -f pod manifest.yaml. And what this is going to do is that if that pod doesn't exist, it doesn't, kube control apply will create it. We are literally applying what is in the manifest against the cluster. That's what makes Kubernetes declarative, which is nice. When we pull the trigger on that, we got this message, kube control, whatever got created. Let's do a kube control get pods. All right. Status is container creating. And if we just give that a second, eventually it should say running. But while we're looking at kube control get, let's take a look at what we're seeing here. This column, ready, 0/1. If you remember from our manifest, how many containers did we put inside of this pod? Just one, right? It was running Nginx. And how many of those containers are actually in a ready state? They are up and running. Well, 0. This one's still being created, right? So if I run that kube control get command again, now you can see it's in a running state. It's 1 out of 1 ready. Also, there are 0 restarts. When you see a lot of restarts on a pod, that's a big red flag. It means that something is causing that pod to die, and it's something that probably needs to get fixed. All right, so now that we've created our pod and we can see our pod, let's talk about our next command. Kube control describe. Now, kube control describe does exactly what it sounds like. It will describe information. And unlike get, which just returns a simple list, this is going to give us much more information. I'm going to describe that pod that I just made, called Nginx, and take a look at the output that I get. That's a lot. Kube control describe is great for double checking if resources have been created the way that you anticipated them. What's also nice is that at the bottom of a kube control describe is this section here called events. And if a resource is busted, if it's not working, describe should be the first tool that you reach for, because you'll often see somewhere inside of here what you may have goofed up and caused it to not work. And now for our last command, delete. All good things must come to an end here, and let's say that this pod needs to come down. There are several ways that you can delete resources, but here are 2 of the easiest. When we think of the phrase, I made you, I could destroy you. Remember how we did apply -f with our pod manifest? We could use kube control delete with that file, and it will delete that for us just the same as it created it for us. That's option number 1. Option number 2, if you don't have the manifest or you don't want to go looking for the manifest, you can always just kube control delete, specify what type of object you're deleting, a pod, and then what's the name of the pod you're trying to delete, Nginx, right? Either way, the result is the same. The pod will be deleted, and after I check to see, we can see that that got removed, and we've created, inspected, and deleted a pod at this point. Next, let's talk about namespaces, which was coming up a little earlier, right? If I were to type kube get pods right now, it says that there are no pods found in the default namespace, whatever that is. But if I use my kube get command, this time against namespace, you can see, oh, default, as it turns out, is literally the name of the namespace, not like the default namespace, which happens to be XYZ, right? There are actually many pods running inside of my cluster right now, but I can't see them because I'm not looking in the right place. So check this out when I type kube get pods, but this time I specify -n for namespace, and let's take a look at kube system. Now I'm seeing some pods. Now, these pods that are running inside a kube system are system integral pods. They are what's holding our cluster together. And do you remember when we were talking about some of like the important components that run inside of Kubernetes, like etcd and the scheduler and things like that? Depending on how your cluster is built, you may actually see pods that are running those applications in pods inside of this namespace. Our training environment is set up a little bit differently. We can talk more about that inside of the real course. But point is that these pods are here because that way they are not getting underfoot when I'm trying to create business-related pods. And also, nobody should be looking at these pods except for admin anyway, which access control is a big, big reason for wanting to use namespaces. So, that being said, it is not difficult to make new namespaces. And I'm going to do this imperatively, which means I'm going to make it at the command line, not going to use a manifest at all. If you're planning on taking the exams, using imperative commands like this are a super quick and easy way to generate certain objects. It's what I'm going to use for my demo. In fact, let's create this namespace and let's just call it demo. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop back inside of that pod manifest that we were looking at earlier. Now, the thing about manifests is that when you are creating objects, if you don't specify where that object is supposed to go, it will go to a default location. That's set by a context, but that's a conversation for later. Something that you can do in order to force pods or other objects to go into certain namespaces is to just add under metadata, namespace demo. If I were to create this object now, pod manifest.yaml, it says that the pod was created. If I try to see what pods are currently running, I still get no resources found. Did I screw up? No, of course I didn't, because those pods are inside of the demo namespace. So think for a minute just what an easy mistake that can be, making objects inside of incorrect namespaces and the confusion that that can cause. Happens to everybody, but forewarned is forearmed. Now, consider this a preview of when we start getting into resource control a little later. But remember, Kubernetes is a shared environment, and you need to make sure that when resources are getting created, you're not taking up more than your fair share, or you're preventing pods from going hog wild and just consuming too many resources. Well, what I'm about to make here is a resource quota. And a resource quota is something that attaches to namespaces and sets the rules. Hey, look, here's the hard limit of what everything inside of your namespace is allowed to consume. CPU, 1 core. Memory, 1 gig. And what I'm also going to use this as an opportunity to show you is that there's another way to specify where resources get built. Resource quotas attached to namespaces. So instead of writing that under metadata, I'm just going to type -n demo. So when I hit enter on this, you can now see that my resource quota has been applied. And again, I'm using kube describe to be able to confirm that. And any pods that get created in this namespace are now going to have to adhere to those resource consumption rules. That's something really cool and something we're going to talk about a little bit later, but again, gives you some more insight into how important namespaces are.